Greetings. We're here again today. Welcome, change makers. And we are all about celebrating change makers all over the world. And today I am so honored to have a new friend that we've just met. And I think he's got great stories to tell. Mr. John Bustos, thank you for being here, John. Tell everybody
Thank,
a little about yourself and what makes you so amazing.
all right. Well, thank you first and foremost for having me here. I have to say, like we discussed a little bit earlier, I happened to come across your page. I normally will, or I got an invite or something, and I normally check pages out. But with your page, uh, you know, um, I went to it immediately, hit join, and then it was inspired to volunteer to be interviewed, and so here we are. I act on my intuition. I act on the spiritual nudges, and I've gotten good at it before from the past when I wasn't even aware of it. So I'm just going to take you back through time, who I am, where I came from, what I've been up to, and what my vision is for the future. My name is John Bustos. I'm 54 years old. I'll be 55 in July, and born in Houston, Texas. Came from a normal dysfunctional family, right? Because that's what I thought was normal. It was normal because all the kids that I ended up hanging around with at an early age, we all had the same things going on. So that was our normal. Very abusive dad, um, although he made changes and became a very good man. Um, but very abusive dad physically and emotionally too. Emotionally abusive by being around but not being there. Right? I'm the youngest of five kids, so my dad's working, my mom's working, my brothers and sister were teenagers doing their own thing. I basically raised myself with the help of a nanny for a little while, and so I didn't really have a lot of direction, right? I didn't have a GPS, so to speak. So, I went everywhere. But, having going everywhere, it guided me where I am today. Um, at a very early age, I started abusing drugs. At a very early age, started very sexually active at the age of 11, and I lost my virginity at the age of 11. And those were things that, like I said, I thought were normal, and that just became who I was. As life went on, my parents divorced. I lived with my mom for a little while. I was pretty unruly. Lived with my dad for a little while. He didn't want me either. Went back to my mom's, and I always found comfort in the misery loves company, right? So I always found comfort in the people who were just like me, because that's what happens to us as human beings. We tend to gravitate to that same energy. Why? Because like attracts like. And so I was attracted to all the wrong people, all the wrong things. Got involved in drugs. I did have a couple of interventions, high school, middle school, a middle school a principal that I was so good at getting out of trouble and debating why I shouldn't go to jail because I got caught with weed in sixth grade, and I got out of it. I got out of going to jail. They let me go and just suspended me. My the principal called my parents and myself in and said, "We need to get this kid on the right track because he needs to be a lawyer," and he was adamant about that. I ended up quitting school. I actually went to college before I got out of school, but none of that interested me. I was so used to everything else. It just didn't, the neural pathways that were already deeply ingrained in me, they were rejecting this new stuff, right? So I just pushed it to the side, and I continued on the journey that was for me at that time. Um, Got involved very early, underage, as a DJ, working in some of the most exclusive nightclubs in Houston, Texas, as a DJ that mixed beats. I got really good at mixing music, but again, coming from a dysfunctional family, it wasn't good enough for me, right? And so I would do things. I would always get to a point of success in life, and this was one of the first things. I could have been a very popular DJ. I could have traveled the world, but I didn't believe in myself.
Uh-oh.
So I would do things to knock myself down because that's what I was used to. I was used to being a failure.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting arrested with a bunch of cocaine, and I decided, that was a couple, like 19 years old, 20 years old, and I said, okay, people around me were being murdered. People around me were going to prison for life at early ages, 19, 18, 19 years old. for murder, for major drug trafficking, and I went to jail a few times, and I was scared, and I didn't want to go to jail, so I moved out of Houston, and I started working in the petrochemical and refining down in South Texas. And my uncle, who was a sheriff at that time, took me in. My aunts took me in, and I still just didn't have what I needed because I didn't know what I didn't know. But as life went on, I went to several, trying to find myself. I went through several, Jehovah's Witness, Catholicism, Pentecostal, and nothing satisfied me because I didn't know what the real satisfaction was anyway. So I ended up getting married early, got a girl pregnant, and I thought the right thing to do was to, marry her and have a baby. We stayed married for 19 years. It was a very, very toxic marriage, mostly because of me. And I'm not saying she was perfect, but she wasn't anything like I was. And we had three beautiful children, have three beautiful children together, and we got divorced, and I went on a rampage as far as promiscuity, and that still wasn't satisfying. Ended up meeting a doctor that we dated for 6 years, and here we go again. The cycle starts again because I don't know what I'm doing. Right? I didn't grow up in a family that, I'm not saying didn't love each other, but they didn't know how to love properly, and
Right.
So with that being said, a 6-year relationship with the nurse practitioner and midwife, I ended up, we attracted each other too. She was an ex-Mormon with a lot of emotional scarring and something I had never heard of, which is called night terrors. And this, she would wake up screaming, thinking she was being raped and murdered, beating the crap out of me. And I would just grab her, hold her, and just, do what I could to, get her back to the reality state that she was in a night terror. Well, one evening in San Antonio, Texas, we had an argument, and she really flipped out, woke up that night screaming, and I had to hold her down. I called the hotel security. When they knocked on the door, I got off of her. I was bloody, scratched and bruised. She didn't have a mark on her, but she said that I choked her because that was her night terror. And in Texas, if somebody says that, you're automatically accused, and I had to turn myself in, basically. I left the scene because I didn't want her to go to jail because I was beat up and bloody and, bruised. And so I had to turn myself in. And this was late 2018 into early 2019. And back in 2015, I'll just go back a little bit. I met a guy that I let stay rent free in an RV of mine, and he had about $100,000 worth of self-help classes. Bob Proctor, John Asaref, Wayne Dwyer, Jack Canfield, you name it, Kevin Trudeau, and others. And he says, you need this. And so, I had it at my disposal. I never did anything with it, but it was there, right? The seed was planted. And so when I went through this other thing with my ex in San Antonio and the whole lawsuit thing, I moved from Houston to San Antonio immediately thinking, okay, she's going to get help. We'll get together and we'll figure this out, right? I did move to San Antonio, and we didn't get back together. But when I moved to San Antonio, I isolated myself from everybody except my mom and my kids. And I also isolated myself from TV and radio for 8 months. No music, no nothing. And this is where the magic happened. So I became a Reiki master, and I started doing Reiki on myself and having a couple of sessions myself. And I ended up going to a metaphysical fair in San Marcos, Texas, where I knew nobody. I was new to the area. I didn't know anybody. And I had two ladies walk by their table, and all their pendulums started moving just with me walking by it. And I thought, my old self said, they kicked the table to make a move so they could try to sell me something. I'm not falling for that. But then I thought, wait a minute, you've been trying to make some changes. Why don't we think a little bit differently, right? So with that being said, I picked around the corner and watched them, and their feet were nowhere near the table. So I
Wow.
went back to the table, and I put my hand in front of the pendulums, and every single one of them started moving. So the
Wow.
lady, they were a married couple. One of the wives, she came to me and she says, "I've never had so many angels trying to get somebody's attention. They're trying to get your attention. Can we go outside and speak?" And I said, "What do I got to lose?" Right? So we go outside, and she said, she says, "Man, this is really hurting my ear," because she says, "I'm telling you, I've never had this happen before." She says, "But they are all trying to speak at one time for me to get your attention."
Wow.
So I said, "Okay, whatever, And she said, "Give me a minute." And she took some deep breaths, and she said, "Okay, what, who are you? What's your? They're telling me that you have work to do." And I said, "Well, I'm actually just got out of jail, and I'm facing this suit." And I said, I feel that. I said, "I feel that I have something to do, but I don't know what it is." I said, "Can you ask the angels what it is?" And she laughed, and she says, "They're laughing because they say that you're pretty funny too." And I said, "I am." I said, I find myself laughing at myself at home by myself, and I do crack myself up, right?" And she says, "Yeah, they agree. They say that you make them laugh all the time too. But they said that you have to figure it out yourself. That you know what it is. Just keep going." So I did, and I went to another metaphysical fair, and the same thing happened. Somebody I'd never met, never known, said the same thing. "You have myriads of angels walking behind you." And then I went to a third one in Austin, Texas, and another lady walked up to the front to give her thing. She's very well known in Austin, and she's a channeler. And she says, "Does anybody else see the hundreds of angels behind this guy in the front row?" That was me. So I said, "Okay, that's three different people I've never met before. I better start doing something. I better put it in gear." So, there were times in 2019 that I would meditate and pray sometimes for 8 hours in the day.
Wow.
And I'm talking, call it what you want, but, supernatural things. I call them natural now, but what people call supernatural things were going on. And I was inspired to write a class, and I said, "How am I going to do this?" And they said, "Use what you know from cut." And I said, "Cut." They were saying KT. So I got in. So I went through the entire Your Wish is Your Command program, and they said, "Okay, now do your own thing." So I meditate on it, and I used The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph P. Murphy, which I've read probably 50 times. My book is marked up back to front, inside out, and everything. And I also use Asking It Is Given.
Mm.
And I came up with a class called Back to the Basics, Getting Back to Who You Really Are. Because I had shared Your Wish is Your Command with a lot of people, and every single one of them said, "I didn't learn, I'm Catholic, I'm this, I'm that, I didn't learn this. This is not according to my religion." And I said, "Yeah, for a reason." So I came up with this class, and the first thing that I would teach people is who they really are. So you know who we really are? We are Adam, made of atoms. Adam is man, made of atoms. So I would take people to the encyclopedia, to Wikipedia, and I'd say break down the composition of the human body. What is magnesium? What is iron? It's atoms. And what is atoms? I don't know. Energy. Okay, well, take them to the Bible in Genesis, where the Bible says, "Let's create man in our image and our likeness. Let's create them." So I say, if we're not a spirit physically right now, we're a flesh, then what does this all mean? "Well, I don't know. My religion never taught me that." And I said, "Exactly. That's why I'm here. We're learning together." And the people that got it, out of about 250 people that I've mentored throughout the entire world, most of them in the United States, I don't know who all is practicing, but the ones that kept in touch, out of about 50 or 60 of them, maybe 7 to 10 still doing the work, and their lives have completely changed. And, I used to just want everybody just to take it in, but I had to realize that everybody's on their own journey. And my job is to plant seeds, water as I can, and let them do the gardening, right? It's up to them after that. So I do that. So fast forward 2019, 2020, I was broke. And I was brokering money at the time. for business loans. And lo and behold, I took a break from working the phones one day, meditated with my Sri Yantra that I had in front of my wall, on my wall, and when I was done with my meditation, I opened up Facebook, and the very first post that I saw was somebody looking for jet fuel, like 2 million barrels of jet fuel. And I had just got off the phone earlier with the guy who was looking for a $500 million loan to start up a shut down refinery in Louisiana. So I called him. I said, will you have jet fuel when you start up? He says, yeah, I need to get contracts. I said, I've got one for you. And so I was able to structure some deals. I was left out of those deals, but it never, and the reason why I was left out is because I chose to have integrity to who I am and to my creator. And I was asked to alleviate myself of that integrity and of my God-given responsibility to be a good human to everybody and not to be selfish, but to be selfless. And was left out of a deal that would have made me millions and millions of dollars. But I said, okay, I got this far. I know I can do it with faith, and that's what I've done. I'm 3 modalities of Reiki. I'm a TFT practitioner, so this whole time I'm doing tapping on myself, I'm doing Reiki on myself, and I'm giving to others. Why? Because it's better to give than it is to receive. And when we give out of a good heart and the right intentions, we get it in many other ways anyway. So I volunteered. I did all these things. I did everything to keep myself feeling good because I understood, like Kevin says, that our ultimate goal every day is to feel good and always be moving towards feeling better. Because if we're not feeling good, we're not expressing good. Right. And I think that today in life is everybody's so busy. There's this going on. The only thing that people can focus on is how bad they feel.
Yep.
And so it's up to me and people like you and people in this group and people in other groups. It's our responsibility, I feel, to be able to get people back to that, right? They need to see that this guy can do it from being a drug dealer, a verbally abusive man, sometimes physically abusive. If I was provoked, I would act back. I would retaliate. And so that's been my mission. My mission is to I've worked with I've worked with one main nonprofit in San Antonio, not right now, but in the past, called Vet Trip, where we work just on veterans. It's all holistic modalities, Reiki, acupressure, acupuncture, massage therapy, music therapy, art therapy. So successful is this little nonprofit that only operates one day a week that the Department of Veterans Affairs came down, wanted to know why they had such a high success rate. So I saw what they were doing. I kept incorporating it to my thing that I was doing, and it's just evolved basically to me working with people all over the world the last 6-7 years. I ended up moving from San Antonio to Louisville, Kentucky. I stayed single, by the way. After I got left out of that deal, I did close a big gas well deal. And I made a few $100,000 in 8 months using the power of my mind, basically, and focus and intention, and more than anything, the power of belief. If everybody knew how powerful just the power of belief is, we would have no need for a governing government. But you talked about the one guy that's coming up with the thing later on, and the country wants to give him some land. I believe all that is possible. But anyway, I stayed single. For almost 4 years. Had plenty of opportunities to do what's normal, hook up, go out on meaningless dates, and have sex with whoever I wanted to. But for once in my life, I was proud of myself because I passed up a lot of opportunities to do those things. When those are the things I was doing when I was first divorced, when I said I went on a rampage, I was doing not with just anybody, but I was doing it a lot with people. You know what I mean? I was one of those people. And the time that I was single led to a lot of self-discovery, self-development. And I said, okay, I'm going to meet the right person for me. And lo and behold, I thought my wife was in her mid-20s, early 30s, and then she made a post that she was fixing to be 40. And I said, 13 years, my cutoff's 10, but we started talking anyway. And she told me she knew in advance anyway. She said, I knew before we even talked that we were going to be together. And here we are together now. I've been in Louisville, Kentucky for 3 years. So what I'm doing now is I took a little break the last couple of years. I've done a lot of distant stuff, a lot of distant Reiki for people. A lot of it I didn't charge. And if they want to donate, I tell them, go for it. But money is not was not the main thing for me. And I always knew anyway that I had a lot of money coming to me anyway. I'm just waiting my time and just going all through the bridge of incidences, right? Just the stepping stones to where it goes, and it led me here. And so my goal for this year, 2025, is to personally help at least 250 people heal. And so what I'm doing now, and the reason why I say that is, if we're not feeling good on the inside, we're not going to project on the outside, right? And the outside, the whole screen of space, it's cause and effect. Everything that we have in our lives right now is the effect, and the causes is our past thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm on a mission to help people to change their minds, to tap into their subconscious minds. Like I said, I worked with over 250 people, but it was so many people all at once, I couldn't handle it all. So what I did is I became a thought-filled therapy practitioner. EFT tapping was derived from TFT. TFT was Dr. Roger Callahan. So I learned from Joanne Callahan up in Virginia, but it was so much that I just started sending people to Brad Yates's YouTube and said, if before I mentor you, I need you to do two things. The very first thing I need you to do is I need you to go to, I need you to watch this video by Dr. Bradley Nelson, PhD, called The Emotional Code, The Process of Releasing Suppressed Emotions. Because what I learned is the trillions of cells that we have, these traumatic events and these deeply ingrained neural pathways, they get into it at the cellular level. And this is why people can't make the changes. The changes are surface area, but it has to be from the inside out.
Yes.
So before I took anybody on as a mentoree, I would say, and I don't have my degree is in physics and chemistry. My degree is not in psychology or anything like that, but that's irrelevant anyway. When you're led by the Spirit, it doesn't matter. My degree is in you and your degree is in me, right? So, So I would make them go to to Dr. Bradley Nelson and do the 13-minute free video. Didn't cost them a dime, and I knew the ones who would make the effort to do that, they had a better chance at going through this program and being successful in life. And so not everybody did it, but a lot of people did. And they would call me and say, I had one guy who killed so many people in Afghanistan and Iraq, he couldn't live with himself when he came back. And his wife and daughters couldn't live with him either. And this guy was near suicide. I worked with him hand in hand. And to have his wife call me and thank me, and I stopped her and I said, you're welcome, but your husband did the work. Thank your husband. But to get calls like that, to where, just life-changing phone calls, that it made it worth the while, it made it worth the effort, it made it worth all the hour. Even if nobody came to the class, I was finding out who I was, and that's what I was missing my entire life. So my mission, my goal here forward, 2025, March 21st today, is I know that people don't feel good on the inside, and a lot of people are suffering. So I do offer Reiki, but I've gotten into, we talked about the stem cell activation patches, and I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission to get people to healing so that they can, take back what's rightfully theirs. That's a good life, a good, abundant life, abundance in everything, not just one thing, but just across the board abundance. It is our divine birthright to be abundant. There's plenty of money for everybody. There's plenty of food for everybody. But my goal is to get people to think about what they think about, to get people to watch what they watch, to get people to listen to what they're listening to, because nobody's doing that. Nobody's thinking for themselves, right? We have over 70,000 thoughts a day, and we're just bombarded with hereto suggestion and our own terrible auto-suggestion, and nobody even realizes it, but I believe that there, a lot of people are waking up. There's a lot of people like you and I that are starting to surface and take our place where we belong, right? I feel like we're pillars of light throughout the world, and the more that we help others, the more that we light up the world, right? Imagine a
Yes.
dark room with just a few, with 200 people in the room, but only 5 of us have lights. But as everybody starts to turn all their light on, the whole room is illuminated, and that's what I'm doing my part today. So, what I'm involved in today is I do Reiki, I do some volunteer work, um, and I do some group Reiki sessions at a Salt Wellness Center here in Louisville, Kentucky. But my biggest thing right now is I was injured in October. I couldn't walk for a few months, and
Whew.
divine everything. I had a friend of mine in Dallas, Texas. I have not seen any of his posts in at least 3 to 5 years. And one of his posts comes across my Facebook page while I'm laying in bed, not feeling the best. Um, and it was a lady who had healed neuropathy in the feet, over 20 years of having it, and after a week or two on these patches, this was gone. And I went to his Facebook page and I saw more testimonies like that, and it made sense to call him, so I did. I got on the patches immediately, pain relief from a 10 to a 4, and I said, "There's something here." Well, then I started researching stem cells because I didn't know anything, but I trusted this guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm thinking, okay, I've heard of stem cells. I remember there's a lot of talk in the mid 2000s about it, but I didn't know anything else about it. But as I started to learn more, I said, well, wow, this is important. If most of our stem cells are dormant by the age of 60, and more than half of them dormant by the age of 30, no wonder why people feel like crap. If we could
Mm-hmm.
just get to a point that we can feel better on the inside, we're more than likely going to want to listen more to people who have things to say like ourselves.
Yes. Yes.
So my goal,
Absolutely.
my goal is to continue to shine my light, to connect with people like you and people in this group, and work either hand in hand, maybe not physically, but collectively, via the ether, the collective consciousness, to tap into each other, and physically also, as far as like what we're doing now. But my goal is to, by the end of this year, at least get my own self 250 people on these patches, indirectly 1,000 people through people who are doing this with me. I will say this about the patches, very important, because the stem cells are the master cells of the body. I call them shapeshifters, right? That's probably
Mm.
a topic for another day, you and I. But this the 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 stem cells are the master cells of the body, and when they're active, they're like an
Mm-hmm.
army. They go and fight where they need to fight. And for me, the first thing they did is relieve my pain, not 100%, but like I said, a 10 to a 4. And in 2.5 weeks, I had major inflammation on my back, which is why I couldn't walk by myself. But in 2.5 weeks, 2.5 days, the inflammation was gone. My chiropractor, who owns the Joint Chiropractic Clinic, is now in LifeWave, and she tried the patches. She healed a rotator cuff that she didn't tell me about this till after she healed it. And she
Mm.
says, "Hey," she says, "I didn't tell nobody, but I've been working with the torn rotator cuff, and she's still, working on patients." And she said, "This has been such a game changer for me." Now she gives samples to her patients, and now they're getting on them also. So I'm getting calls from people. I've never, I haven't felt this great in years. 22 years of pain, and it's gone, and this and that and this and that. So letting them heal, and then as when the timing is right, I'm dropping other seeds about like what we're talking about now. And it's amazing that a lot of people are really wanting to know, how can we change who we are and how we've been for so many years. And so people like you and I, we don't have all the answers, but guess what? We can get them started. That's for sure, right? So that's
Absolutely.
my message for today. Is just
Whew.
Kevin said this one thing that's always stuck with me, and he said, go as far as your eyes can see, and when you get there, you'll see further. So these distractions that used to take my time and attention away from me, they don't do that. If they do, it's not very long. I'm able to pivot very, like Abraham Hicks says, Esther Hicks. You got to learn how to pivot right away, and I've learned to pivot really, really fast, almost immediately. And but that's my goal. My goal is to keep sharing messages of peace and hope. In the Bible, it talks about the things that we should be thinking about, the things that are true, the things that are just, the things that are of good rapport, the things that are of love and kindness. And really, that's what we need. When I created that class, and I would take people back to who we really are, my whole goal was to teach them that, look, you and I were created out of love, nothing more than love, because we didn't have to be here. We didn't have to be created. We didn't have to be given the opportunity to come here and, enjoy a whole nother lifetime and lifespan different from who we really are. And if
Hmm.
anything, the one thing I want to teach people is that, if we all just united in true, compassionate, unconditional love, which is who we are at our very core anyway. We weren't created out of anger. We weren't created out of hate. We weren't created out of jealousy. We weren't created out of envy. We were created out of love. So simple,
Yes.
but yet so, distant from a lot of people because of, certain things that have made it that way for a reason. And so I thank you for
Yes.
having me here. I thank you for having me on this your little podcast here today, and I look forward to being more involved with you and others. If anybody wants information on me, on Reiki, on anything that I've talked about, I'm willing to work with whoever, to help whoever, however I can, because I'm going to get it back in return, right? And again, the way that I keep on this journey is I keep helping others, right? We lift ourselves by raising others. And again, I feel like it's my responsibility. So please don't hesitate to reach out. My Facebook page is public. And so people can go there if they're interested in healing from the inside out with the stem cell patches, or if they'd like to talk about Reiki or a TFT session. They can more than reach out to me there, or if they just want to be a friend, send me a friend request. John Bustos, Louisville, Kentucky. I've got a picture of my beautiful wife and I on there. It's hard to miss because we're both cheesing really hard because we enjoy this life. We enjoy each other, but most of all, we've learned to enjoy ourselves.
Awesome. Holy cow. What a story. And thank you for being willing to share all the parts of it, because, that's part of another part of this group's desire is to be able to give other people hope.
Right,
That there's far too many people on the planet who are feeling hopeless, and it's
right.
not necessary, it's not natural, and we're here to help be, as what my friend Amos says, we are global lights.
There you go. I like that. Global lights. Yes. Very nice.
Good stuff. Any final words of wisdom you want to leave people with today?
I do. Anything. And I mean anything. Anything the mind of man can achieve and can believe, it can and will achieve. What it takes is faith. I usually have a necklace on. I didn't wear it today because I always meet somebody that needs it, and I give them my necklace. But it's a little necklace that has the scripture about faith. If you have faith the size of a mustard seed, and it has a mustard seed, and the mustard seed is so small, but it's so impactful because all you need is a little bit of implicit faith, just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit. But that tiny bit is so powerful, and it can move mountains. Whatever mountain you're facing today, I promise you can get through it. I'm more than happy and willing to talk with anybody that's going through anything right now that needs some encouragement, motivation, or even a Reiki session on me. Don't hesitate to reach out. Anything is possible. Thank you.
Wow. Yes, anything is possible. And we thank you for shining your light on the planet. So thanks to all of our change makers out there for watching the video. Don't hesitate to reach out to John. We'll make sure that he puts his contact information under our videos as well. And we will see you all in the next interview. Have an amazing day. Take care,
Have a good one,
everybody.
guys. Thank y'all.